Live. Okay, done. Fantastic. Okay, let me.
Evening.
Okay, we're ready?
Sorry.
Okay. Let me. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, let's go to Google Share. I want to share. No. Okay. All right. We're going to start. Okay. So we were talking about the idea of sending a written claim to a Beis Din, right?
Right.
And we'll break it up first just to get to the picture, and then we'll go into the text. So first we said that the Shulchan Aruch said you cannot send in your claim into the Beis Din unless both sides agree. Okay. So if both sides agree, then you can send in your claims. However, after both sides go and orally state their claims, so then usually the procedure is that Beis Din will have we have the technical term of someone, I think it's called a stenographer. Stenographer, I think that's the word. Right? Someone that sits in the Beis Din, and that person will basically write out all the claims of both sides, and after that happens, they'll give it out to usually it is kept to the Beis Din. Now, this scribe will be paid for by both sides. Now, it seems like it depends on the Beis Din. However, in Israel today, pretty much so that both that they do have these scribes or these stenographers, and part of the cost of going to a Beis Din, you'll end up paying automatically for this stenographer. Okay. Today there's also the concept that we have a little bit of a hybrid, meaning sometimes they'll start the case with oral, right? Oral testaments or stating your claims orally. After that happens, they'll sometimes go home and both sides will develop and work on their claims through email and send it to the Dayan, to the judge. And then they'll go back and they'll resume. Sorry, now with email, they go back and they'll resume with in-person, in court, and the Dayan will have that. And we'll get to in a second as to what is the reason for this, and why is it so necessary that both claimants come to Beis Din in person, right? Yes, it's very apropos. Yeah, sure.
Are the emails considered written, or is the email just a thought process?
So the emails, it seems like the emails are considered written to a certain extent. Yes, they are considered written. And the idea is that, right, once that happens, so it is kind of a hybrid. But yeah, once that is written, it's considered written to the extent that you cannot go and back out from your claim. You can build your claim, yeah, but exactly, it's just like a scribe writing it. And you cannot back out of your claim. Yeah, I mean, but the main idea is that what it seems like is especially today that people can already write their own claims. We don't have to so much rely on the scribe. There was an era that not everybody knew how to write so well and things like that. So that's why you more had, a scribe was more. The more back in history you go, the more of a place there was from a scribe. The famous story with Rabbi Shmuel Hanagid. Shmuel Hanagid was a a Jew that worked for one of the big sultans, and the way he got his job was he was a scribe. So definitely a job. Now the question is, what is so important? So I mean that's basically a hybrid. But the question is, what is so important of us having in-person court cases, and why can't both sides just write up what they want to? So over here, so this is based on the Rivash. The Rivash came before the Shulchan Aruch, and the Shulchan Aruch's opinion is based on the Rivash. He brought two opinions, and we'll go through this inside later. One he said is that one reason is we can't force the other litigant to spend money for no reason or on something superfluous, meaning that because the scribe in those days costed money, and you don't need the scribe to do what he needs to do, because both of you can come to court. So if you really need the scribe to come and write down what is necessary, then both sides are going to have to pay for it, and you can't force the other side to pay for something that's not necessary. So that's his first reason. Would that apply today? So as we said, in the case of the email, I don't know how much that would apply, unless the dayan. I guess it would depend how the dayan was kind of structuring the case. If the first opinion would really matter. The second is we believe that the superior method of having a court case is when it's an oral and in-person case, because then the dayan is able to get a feel of who he's talking to and what's happening here. As we said many times, that a dayan sometimes, if he feels that one side has basically crafted together a claim that's untrue, and he feels there's a great sense of falsehood. We spoke about this. Then the dayan is able to cut the cord and sometimes negate even even proper testimony. So the dayan has a lot of power, but we can only really ask the dayan to rely on his instinct. When there's going to be an in-person situation. Okay, fine. The last idea was that when both agree to write the claims, they're basically agreeing to the possibility of their statements being used against them. Sorry for the typos over here. Let me fix it up for you guys. Of there. One second. No. EI. Okay. Yeah. So, and basically what we're saying over here is that one of the problems, this is the third issue or the third advantage of in-person as opposed to writing things in, is that when someone goes and writes their statements, their claims out, it is possible that the other side could use it to build themselves up. If the other side has so much time meaning if both claims are given before both sides come to court, so it's going to be a much less natural case, but rather you have both sides really building up their case, and they can really one side that naturally would not have the advantage can now have the advantage. But as we said today, a lot of places will do kind of like a mix. So we get both of each. Both sides come to Beis Din. Both sides kind of state their claims, and then you have that natural ambiance of things, and then you can kind of go to the email and kind of really hash out and work out your opinions. Okay, let's go to the actual Shulchan Aruch. We'll read it together. Okay, this should be it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the actual Shulchan Aruch inside. We have it in English, we have it in Hebrew, and if you like a copy of this afterwards, I can send you a link. I made it myself, though I haven't put that much work into it. Kind of just copy pasted, but yeah, it's all here, and it's wonderful. Okay, so let's start together. So Choshen Mishpat, this is Choshen Mishpat. Sim Gimel Sif Gimel, right? Chapter 13, Law 3. So Ein Kavin is Adam Shein Kainesa Biksav. We can't force a person to submit his arguments in writing. And similarly, the way it works with the English is, the English has its own way it works, so you have to work with that. They have notes that they put in here. But and also the dayan, the judge cannot accept any tinus, any claims, biksav, in writing. Ella, but rather yishmu tanaseim b'piyam. He has to hear their claims from their mouths. And then he can go and command the sofer, the scribe, to write them. But he cannot go and ask them to write it unless they both agree. And then both need to pay. And as we'll explain soon, we said, we were talking before of all these advantages of being in court or outside of court, but just practically speaking over here, it seems like the Shulchan Aruch's main gist is that once you write down their claims, they can't back out or they can't switch their claims. When someone, for example, as the Rivash will talk about it, when someone gives his claim in court, so let's say he said, the guy lent me money. Okay. He can later on go and say, the guy lent me money, but I paid him back. He can tweak it a little bit. But once a person goes and he writes down his actual opinion, so then there's no going back from the logic or the spirit, so to speak, of where his claim is going. He can't retract from that. Once it is written down, to a certain extent, it's as if it's written in stone.
It's committed as evidence, effectively.
Yes. Sorry?
It's committed as evidence. Yes, it can't be changed.
Exactly, right. It's committed as evidence. And it's actually interesting. It's interesting that the same applies for testimony of witnesses or in general claims, that if someone tells you something outside of court, or let's say someone testifies outside of court, it's not really considered a real testimony. The only time we really say there's a real testimony is once it comes to the court, and it seems over here we're going on to the next level that they can't even backtrack themselves to a certain. The claimants can't backtrack themselves once things are written down. Yeah. And then we continue and we say, that that basically once they go and they write their claims, they cannot return. And this is based on the Nemuke Yosef right here. It's not like, I have it on the wrong mode. You know what? Let me give me a second. I'm going to go to the regular source sheet because then I can highlight better. Sorry about that. It'll just be clearer. Okay, let's try this. There we go. Okay. And then he says, this is based on the Nemuke Yosef, Get Pasha, till we kind of spoke about this a little bit. Okay. Now, this is all based on the Tshuvas HaRivash. Remember correctly, the Tshuvas HaRivash was brought down by the Tur, right? So we know the Tur preceded the Shulchan Aruch, right? The Shulchan Aruch was written by Rabbi Yosef Karo. So first, Rabbi Yosef Karo wrote a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch called the Beis Yosef. Then he wrote a commentary. He also wrote a commentary on the Rambam. And then he decided, I want to make my own Shulchan Aruch, and he kind of did that, right? So that's just the way things worked out. Okay, so the Tur brings down the Rivash. I should have brought down the Tur, but we didn't. Okay, we'll do it another day. Anyways, so it's the Tshuvas Rivash, meaning that it was a responsa by the Rivash. I think he was a Spanish scholar, if I remember correctly. So obviously before the expulsion. And he writes like this. Sha'altem. So it's a question answer format. So someone asks a question, So Shnei Kides Bao Ladin, two groups of people come to a Ladin, to a court case. Ha'achas merasha, haba b'harsha, and Mesarer Tanesa b'chsav. It seems that one is a one second. We're still on, guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it Zoom? Oh, interesting. Okay. I don't know. I got a word pop up. Okay. So the point like this. It says that two groups of people come to a Beis Din, and one of them asks, right? He wants to give his tainesav. He wants to give his claims b'chsav in writing. And he asks from the Beis Din if you could do this, right? And other group of people say, no, you can't do this. What do you mean? What's this new mishagas, right? What do you mean now you want to start sending in your claims with through writing? Okay, so that's the question that comes to Rivash. So Rivash answers, he writes, Tshuva kedim shiva zoysa kas omer she'ein lekabel shum tanis v'chsav lefi she'ein latriach et anit b'lekabes tevis. She writes this. He writes that Kedin, he sides with the other group. They said she'ein lekabel shum tanis. You don't have to accept any sort of taina, any sort of okay, here you go, plea, b'chsav, right? They do this great thing. Sometimes they translate for you one word, but they kind of stop over there. In writing, why lefisha ein lahatriach as anispa lekachas tefis, because you can't trouble the other side. Lekachas tefis mitanes hatevea, to basically to accept the claims from the litigant. Laheshav aleihim mitechaksav lasas etzachinam. Basically, it's going to cost money, and you can't basically force one side to go and do this. It's going to it's going to be a lot of work. So one is basically you can't force someone to do something that he could do it either for free or he could do it much easier just by speaking. Over here, it's going to cause a lot of trouble. He has to write it out. He has to answer in writing. It's a lot of trouble. So he can do this for free in a very simple way, just going to court and responding in court in person. The gam also. So the first, so we said there was two reasons. The first was because you can't go and force someone to trouble themselves for no reason. The second is either monetarily or working. The second is also that the judges will have a greater ability to, as we said before, to sense or to get an idea in terms of the truth of these claims when the people are in person. As it says, maybe from these claims, the rabbi will learn who's talking about emes, who's giving the truth over here, right? But if you let him come in with writing, each one is gonna write a beautiful thesis over here. But rather the PM, the best is that they come in person and the dayan can listen to both sides in person. And therefore we command afterwards the scribe that he should go and place their tainus. Once they come inside, then and they give their opinions, then the dayan will go and command the scribes to write down both claims, and then both sides cannot retract from what has happened. Okay.
And they also have to pay for it then.
Yes, and they need to pay for it. Exactly. Yeah.
So then the first tshuva that said that we can't force him to do it because it's an expense that he doesn't have to do.
Yeah.
seems to me strange.
I hear what you're saying.
Eventually, he's going to pay.
Right. Well, I guess he's paying less. He's paying less.
Maybe.
He's paying less. And also he'd be working less. Over here, the sofer, right? It seems like the Dayan sofer is pretty much running the case, as opposed to if both sides are going to be paying separately for their own scribe, it might come out more. But I hear what you're saying. Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. That's how I would explain it. We can check it up and see what other people are saying. That's a good, it's a good point. Okay. So the smeh comes over here. Now the smeh is really is not on the Rivash. The smeh is really the Miras Anayim. He is on the Choshen Mishpat over here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just give so before we go to the smell, let's just go through this real quick. We basically said that we can't force anyone to write their personal opinions, and we gave two reasons for this. A is because it might be either more troublesome or cost more money, and the second reason is because we want that there should be more of the Dayan should have more of a handle on what's happening here, as opposed to everyone kind of crafting whatever they want and not coming in person, and then you don't really know who's saying what. There's less what's the word clarity there. There's a certain word I'm talking about, but I forgot it. Okay. Okay, so the smack comes like this. He writes, he brings down that this is that we're saying we can't force either side. He brings it. He says this is from the Nimuki Yosef, as we said. In Perek Get Pashut, right? It's the last Perek. And he says, I think it's Lay Mairi. We're not talking about She'en Kepin She'itin the Baldin Tanasai Ksuva. We're obviously not speaking over here that each side will write what will instead of coming to basin, each side is going to write out their taina, and then they're going to give it to the other side. No, we're not saying that. Any rights like arba, because obviously we're not saying that, because if that's the case, if both sides are going to get the other side's opinion without even coming to basin, then there's really going to be, as it says here, aruba. It's going to be like you walk into a lion's den, because each side is really going to get the other side's opinion before they even come into basin, and they can really craft a proper rebuttal, and it's gonna be really tough. But rather, he's gonna say, each guy is gonna say, what do you mean? He's gonna go and he's gonna learn from what my claim is, how to bring a negative and a false to it. But rather, we're talking over here is even to go and give it to the actual basin, to the dayan. Also, then you can't force him. If you look for Toen Lefneim, he writes here, even basically, if you look for, I mean, it's interesting. He said even if they already came to basin and they already made their taina, now if you want them to go write it and give it to the basin, he said you can't really force them to do that, because then they can't change it. So obviously, I mean, the idea is, this is, you have to understand the way you do things today is a little different from the way it kind of looks like over here. That's obviously a real difference. Today, we kind of force them a little bit to. The truth is, it depends on the basin. It really depends on the basin. Some basins will force you to pay for the scribe, and then some basins have no scribe. So it kind of depends, really, where you go. I'm pretty sure in Israel, where things are more, set up and it's connected with the government, so then you really have to. Then they actually have a stenographer, and you end up, and everything's done like that. However, in America, it depends. Some places are, some places aren't. Yeah. Okay. Next, the Smeh talks about in the Dayan. Right, basically the Dayan has to. So the Smeh says the Dayan has to go and listen to the claims. Okay. that the Dayan should really go and listen to both these claims. And the Rivash Nasan Talmud Verb, he gives a reason. Sham Zal Lefisha Ein Lahatzriach Havir Lekakas Tefis Tanasai Leheisha Aleim V'Teichak Savs. Because the Rivash said we don't want to force both sides to go and start writing up new Megillas, right? New theses on each side. It's too much trouble over here. Just let them come into. Obviously, if they want to do it, they could do it. But to go and make people go and write up all these things, and either to pay for or not to pay for it, it's a lot of work. But furthermore, so we saw this in the original. At the second, right, that the Rivash gave two reasons. A, we can't force one side to be troubled by the second side, and B, that if it's to go and give both sides. If for one side to give the other side their claim in writing, it's going to give a lot of room for falsehood and for trickery, right? Okay. We have a little time here. Next is Smegel. V'savle sefer l'kreishon pirish hadayonim atzmi yisavle sefriyim shekosvu v'yiru shalei yishanu ksivasum taseim v'davku v'dasa based in kosvu. So here he says. The Smegel said that when the Dayanim, when the judges go and they command to their scribes to write up these claims, it's not coming from. He's saying over here it's specifically coming from the judges. It's not coming from the claimants. The judges have to ask the claimants to agree, but it's not coming from the claimants. And B, the judges are really overseeing and watching and supervising that everything is done properly. In order that there should not be any meddling with the information. Okay. And he continues over here. The Smei, he says that why do we need both of them to agree? Because obviously, once this is written, there's no going back on it. Hainu mitam anal. The shuv la yuchlu lachsar klal, you can't go back. There's a bunch of smash here, so we're going to go through all of them, and then we're going to go to the Lag Omer. We have a little time, so we can do that. This is actually interesting. Okay, so right similar time. Let's go back over here for a second. It says if both if both litigants want to submit their tainas in writing, then they can do that. But then they have to remember whatever they're going to give in is not going to be able to be retracted, right? So this is the concept of mechila, which I think is a very interesting concept in general. The concept of mechila, mechila is a very interesting concept because we learned before that mechila in general does not need a kinyan, right? In general, when it comes to a court case, you usually need a kinyan in order to establish that if you make a deal between one side and the other, you need a kinyan that okay, we're happy with what's happening here and nothing's going to change. But when one side is meichel, one side forgives another side outside of being coerced by a judge to do the mechila. Obviously, if the judge forces you to do a mechila, we said you need a kinyan, right? Mm-hmm. But if one side is meichel to the second side, so then there's no kinyan necessary. Okay, and this seems to be kind of the technique that's being used over here. That when both sides agree to put in writing their claims, they're pretty much being meichel whatever might happen because of this decision, whether it's one side developing their claims more powerful, or any trouble or any monetary loss that might happen, both sides are being meichel. It's a very interesting concept. Okay. Now, what does it mean you can't return? So what it means you can't return, you can't go back is even if you go and you say, I didn't mean to say that, or when I said that, as you said before, right? When I said I took the loan, what I meant was I took a loan, but I returned it. I took a loan, but I paid for it, which you could sometimes switch around with in a Beis Din, right? Because as long as you're not breaking your original claim, it kind of goes. But once you go and you put it into writing, it's not going to work anymore. Once you go and put it into writing, then you cannot bring in a masla. A masla comes from the word ms lay. You see that? Ms lay. It's not. It's true, but it's not. It's true, but I'm going back on it. It's an excuse. That's what a masla comes from, right? So it's a good way to remember that. And that's basically what we're saying over here. That once it's put into writing, you cannot retract from the gang, the direction, the spirit of the law. It's over there. Okay. And this was we brought this down last week. Oh, this is interesting that we brought this down last week. That in the previous halacha we were talking about writing down that when both sides agree to who the judge is going to be, they can write this down on a document, and then you can't retract from that. Now we're talking about both sides writing down their claims, and when they write it down, you can't go back on that. And these two laws are basically based on the Gemara over here, right? It says the Mishnah says if you find a shtari berurin, you have to return it, to its owner. So the question is, what's a shtari berurin, right? So there's two opinions. One is in Babylonia, they interpret it that it's a document of claims. And Rabbi Yirmiyah says that no, it's each side choosing another judge. So we see that in the Shulchan Aruch, because we have this Gemara, the Shulchan Aruch had two separate halachas, right? Just show real quick. Let's go back to the original. You'll see the Shulchan Aruch built on that and went according to both sides. The first one says that if you write on a shtar, if you write on a document, this guy chose this guy chose this guy, then you can't go back on it. The second halacha says, if you write on the documents both opinions, you can't go back on it. So what's the source of it? What is it reflecting? It's reflecting the Gemara. The Gemara had this idea. Okay. That's all for this week, folks. Any questions before we go on to Lag BaOmer? First of all, today is Pesach Sheni. And we know Pesach Sheni, what's the concept of Pesach Sheni? By Chabad, we always say, how my Yiddish is correct, as the Danish came verfallen. There's no, it's never too late. Verfallen means you never lost all your chances completely, right? Chaim, that makes sense what I'm saying? You can vouch for what my Yiddish? We lost him. Okay. So that was basically the big that's today's idea of Pesach Sheni, that it's never too late, no matter what it is. And the Rebbe would always connect it to a famous Rambam. There's a Rambam that basically is a very interesting Rambam. It says that Pesach Sheni goes so far that if someone, let's say, converted between the first Pesach or the second Pesach, or let's say someone became bar mitzvah between the first Pesach and the second Pesach. So do we say you only have to bring a Passover lamb if you missed the first Pesach, meaning if you were obligated the first Pesach? So if you're obligated the first Pesach, am I cutting off? You guys see me?
No, I see you.
Okay, good, because I was freezing on my part. Okay, so the question goes: let's say someone became obligated in mitzvahs between the two Passovers. Do we say the second Passover is only a tashlumin, meaning it's only a
up?
Right, it's only a makeup of the first one. So if you had no obligation, then you don't have to do it. Or do we say that it's its own opportunity in itself? So there is, the Gemara has says a little bit of both. However, what we do see is that if someone either converted between there, or if someone went bar mitzvah, according to the Rambam, you'd have to bring it.
Yeah.
What that means to say is that the Pesach Sheni introduces this idea that even if you were, the reason why you didn't the reason why you were not able to fulfill the mitzvah is because you were so far that you didn't even have the obligation to do this mitzvah. Pesach Sheni is so powerful that it can give you this opportunity. That's the beauty of Pesach Sheni. So that's today. So make sure you have a little shmur matzah. It's a mitzvah to have that's our custom. You have a little shmur matzah. I'm not gonna tell you to have maror. Don't have to do that. Don't go so far. But to have a little shmur matzah and to remember that there's always a second chance. Okay. A few more minutes. Let's just go and I borrowed this guy's worksheet, so I have to give him credit. What's his name? But he did a beautiful job. His name is Rabbi Yaakov Gladstein. Gotta give him credit. So now he can't. I hope he can't sue me. And also the Gemara says you gotta always whoever the source from, you have to give everyone credit, right? So I'm giving him 100% credit. It's his share. I don't thank him very much. We're not gonna do the entire thing, but just look at some interesting ideas. So the Chassam Sofer, he had an interesting question on Lag BaOmer, and he said, how can you go and make a holiday out of someone passing away, a brand new holiday? Where's the source for this? He says, the one thing you want to tell me that a miracle happened here, but the main reason why we usually celebrate on Lag BaOmer is because it's a passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So what's the basis to make an entire holiday? In this vein, interesting enough. I was listening to there's a great podcast. It's called Headlines. It's a very interesting podcast. So on this podcast, they were talking about different things, and they brought up the holiday of Yud-Tes Kislev. Yud-Tes Kislev by Chabad is a very big holiday, and so much so that we call it the Chagi HaChagim. It's the holiday of all holidays. And someone was saying, how can you say that according to halacha? How can you make a new holiday? It doesn't say that. So it's interesting. You see a correlation between Rabbi Shimon, Lag BaOmer and Yud-Tes Kislev. But the Chassam Sofer had the same question, right? And if I remember correctly, the Chassam Sofer's Rebbe was the Hafla, right? The Hafla was a Talmud of the Maggid of Mezrich. Remember correctly. Okay. So the Baal Hafla wrote a very, very, very famous sefer on, I think, Suvis. But anyways, the point over here is Chassam Sofer had a big question over here. How can you go and make a holiday? So he says, and this is over here in the corner. He writes over here, but to make a holiday in a day that no miracle happened, there's no reason. Doesn't say anywhere in Shas and Poskim. Let me get this little annotation piece over here, so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Over here, yeah, there we go. So he says to go and make a brand new holiday, which was never mentioned. How can you go and do it? Rak menias hesped v'tainus min hagahi. You want to tell me that okay, you can't make a hesped or fast on this day? Fine, it's a minhag. But time of gufa laydana, but I don't know what the reason for that is. But to go and make a brand new holiday, what's the reason for that? So he ends up saying that it could be the reason is because maybe this was the day that the mun fell, and he kind of he deduces it. 1 second, let me just out. And he brings us over here. This is Drash's Chassam Sofer, the Kutim. Also, it's in the original Chassam Sofer. I think I brought it up in Sefaria. So he's not so for it, but he kind of brings it up. I found the Chassam Sofer in Sefaria. I was very excited. I found the Chassam Sofer in Sefaria. Here we go. There it is. Here we go. And he says, based on what it says in Medrash, right, that on a day that Shekala HaCharara, that the bread of the Jewish people that they brought out of Egypt. So when it stopped, it says they went 3 days without bread, and afterwards the month fell. If so, it could be that the month fell on Lag BaOmer. And therefore, maybe you could say that what's the whole celebration of Lag BaOmer is because the month fell. And therefore, it'd be a good reason why to make it. But he's still very critical about it. The truth is, I mean, I don't know if this is official. It might be we call it a beichsvar, but it seems like a lot of times when the Rebbe would bring down the concept of Lag BaOmer, he always connected it to the fact that on Lag BaOmer, besides the fact that it was the passing of Rishon Bar Yochai, it was also the day that we know Rishon Bar Yochai revealed the deepest parts of the Zohar, and a big chunk of the Zohar happened on the day before he passed away. So, and in Chassidut, we nickname Lag BaOmer. We call it it's like the giving of the Torah. It's like the Har Sinai, the Mount Sinai of Kabbalah. It's a nickname, but I think the idea might be, it could be it's kind of like this might be a way of kind of answering the Chassam Sofer's question. You know, what's this big celebration? We're saying the big celebration is that we're celebrating the Chidushei Torah. We're celebrating this big revelation of Torah that wasn't allowed to be revealed before that. You guys, okay. So,
but isn't that the whole idea? Isn't that understood already by the fact that we light fires on Lag BaOmer because there was a great light that was revealed on that day? I mean, isn't that where the minhag comes from?
Right. I think that's
from the Talmidim of the Rebbe Shimon.
Right. I think also, if I remember correctly, because when he passed away, I have her look it up. I'll tell you 1 second. Over here, have a book. It gives you all the explanations to that, and I saw it say something about this as well. Give me a second. I think also, if I remember correctly, when he passed away, there was a big pillar of fire.
Yeah.
Give me a second. A second. Okay. Wanted to check it beforehand. Since you brought it up, might as well look it up. Okay, so going up to Miron.
There's another idea as well about these ideas of new chagim that come about.
Okay.
That the chagim and bichlal time,
right,
in Torah and in according to the chagim of the calendar, it's in a microcosm. Like if you ask an average Jew, why do we eat matzah on Pesach? He'll say, because our forefathers ate matzah on Pesach. There's a deeper reason to that as well. We eat matzah on Pesach for the same reason our forefathers ate matzah on Pesach. So in a microcosm, we're in the same time, we're in the same dimension of time on Pesach as the forefathers were, as our, as the children of Israel were. And the same thing with Avraham Avinu was also eating matzah with the Suda that he gave to the Malachim. It was supposed to have been Pesach, and they also had matzah. So you can ask the question, well, how come Avraham Avinu could have celebrated Pesach? It was before they even went down to Mitzrayim, because it was already the energy of that day was already there even before. The energy of coming out of Mitzrayim was even there before they went down to Mitzrayim. So you could say that with all these other chagim. And I don't know if it's true, but I've heard it said a few times, that Yud Tes Kislev is mentioned as a chag in the Gemara somewhere, but they were discussing it and they said, well, they've got no idea what it is, but it's mentioned as a chag. So it's like...
If I remember correctly, I think it was brought up in the Sefer. It was brought up in a sefer. There was a certain gentleman. He would have what was it called? I don't remember Gemara. I remember it was another sefer. He that what was it called? I think it was speak to a malach or something to that extent. I have to pick it up again. But in heaven they said there's a certain specialty to that as well. So, yeah. Okay. I haven't found it yet, but I'll find it. I'll let you guys know. But yes, I think it's both reasons. A, because right he revealed Torah, which is the idea of fire, and I think also because when he passed away,
There was a pillar of fire.
Right, pillar of fire. Yeah. There's also, I mean, some people have the minhag that they burn clothes, specifically clothes, for the bonfire. That's why, I mean, that could be when I was in Meron, they have these huge, like cotton, it's like a bowl of cotton drenched in gasoline.
In oil, yeah. Well, that's the. I always wondered why they do that. I just thought maybe it's because that's the easiest way to mosif to the fire.
Right. But over here, I think people had a custom to build to burn clothes. Okay, we gotta check out all these things. We'll let you guys know. But anyways, that's the idea. So just to end off by saying, it says that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai would say that if it's b'shas adchak, if a person having a hard time at life or he's in a time of need, he can rely on Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So if people need whatever people need in their lives, whether it's spiritual blessings, physical blessings, nachas, money, whatever it is, health, all these things, we should all see it from today until with the blessings of Pesach Sheni, with the blessings of Lag BaOmer, right? And with the blessings of learning about all these wonderful things and getting together for Torah, we should hopefully all be together in Meron with Mashiach.
Be'ezrat Hashem.
Be'ezrat Hashem.
With Rabbi Shimon, mamash.
And we see and hopefully then it won't be so expensive, because we see over here, according to halacha, you can't force someone to pay for something if they can get it in an easier way. So when Mashiach comes, we're all going to go. God's going to take us there on clouds or on eagles, whatever it's going to be. We won't have to pay for tickets
without paying for coronavirus tests.
Exactly. Coronavirus. So we
hundreds of pounds. Crazy.
According to halacha, that Hashem has to bring Mashiach. See that?
Yeah.
A little spiel. All
Very
right.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thanks so much.
And we'll see you hopefully next week.
Next
Yeah.
week. Getting closer to Matan Torah.
Yeah, exactly. Have a little matzah and enjoy. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Everybody.
Shkoyach.
Thank you to all the-
Thanks so much.
and thank you to all the new chaver. That it's always a pleasure.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
they're coming in. Yes, they're coming in.
Okay.
A few more guys
Bye.
lined up. Okay,
Bye.
Zagazan.
Amen. Okay.
Oh.